This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Martin from the Accelerator team. I'm here with Giles McMullen, who has a YouTube channel with quite a lot of subscribers, certainly compared to us, that's for sure. And we're here to talk about how to build a YouTube channel for your business. Hi, Giles. It's very good to have you with us today.
I'm very pleased to be here.
Is it worth just telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you use YouTube, and then we can get into the detail?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a YouTube channel called Python Programmer, which I started, I don't know, I mean, I registered the channel years ago, but I didn't do anything with it for
Your first video was actually really long time.
Yeah, I mean, 2008, something like that, maybe a bit earlier than that. And I didn't really do anything with it until I was doing some postgraduate studying. And I had to learn how to code when I was doing postgraduate, and it was something I hadn't done really before, and it wasn't an easy skill for me to acquire. And I found that when I looked around, a lot of people were in a similar situation, and the assumption was that if you come from a sort of numeric background, if you've done a degree in maths or physics, then you just know how to code. And that was the assumption of, that the lecturers were making about people.
As a logical step, you mean?
Yes, but it isn't necessarily the case. And so I saw a lot of people that were expected to know how to do this, as I was, and that couldn't do it. And it's not, I mean, some people pick it up very easily, and it's they learn very easily, but for most people they don't. And so I started with that sort of idea of reviewing what I thought was the best content to learn how to do it, and it just sort of grew. It grew from that, really. So
when you say reviewing, and this is just so people know what got you into this, you would read a book on how to code. And then review the book?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time in libraries looking for books that taught coding in a way that I thought was intuitive. And there's a lot of information out there, but some of it is better at teaching than others, for people that that are complete novices. And so I found that I had all these resources of books that I had located and found that taught the subject in a way that I thought was very accessible, and they taught it very well. And I just really wanted to share that. So it started off just being, this is a great book, if you want to learn how to read this book. And I extended that out to other technical subjects as well, like sort of maths and physics. But
it's almost like a much more elaborate extension of leaving a review on TripAdvisor for a good cafe, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I read this, it was good. I think you like this about it, or I found this useful.
Absolutely, yes.
Right,
So that's basically how I started. And
at that point, I presume you had no aspiration or no idea. Certainly, that time ago, there wasn't such a thing as professional YouTuber, etc. So it was, you were doing that just as an altruistic kind of.
Really, yeah, I was
helping each other.
That was why I started. I thought this was, this might help someone. I didn't expect many people to watch it, and I thought this might be useful for some people. This is what I wish I'd had available to me when I was looking for this information, and so I put it out there for that reason.
So there's an irony there that if someone else had done your channel 2 years before you would have found that channel. Probably would never be doing this. Yeah, you would just be a follower now instead of a creator. So thanks for that, Giles. That's really, really useful, because I think a lot of people wonder how people get into this, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be a conscious decision to become a YouTuber. But let's just say we've got a lot of our clients who are already in business. They already have a way of making money there. And what they're doing is they're thinking, well, we need to get on YouTube because everyone's telling us if we're not creating video, we're not doing marketing. We're not doing it right. What type of things would you think are worth people thinking about when they think, right, let's start a YouTube channel?
I think the first thing they need to think about is that YouTube brings you really close to your audience. And what people want is they want authenticity. And they want you to be they want to start a relationship in a way with a creator that they can trust. So you need to think about, it's not about a hard sell. It's about how can you create authentic content that engages with people and gives them, for most businesses, perhaps useful information that they can either learn from or that can point them in the right direction, and build that trust and authenticity with an audience that might be interested in what they've got to say.
And do you see then, unless your business is entertainment, do you see then a YouTube channel as a way to inform and educate rather than for an entertainment? It's pointless if you're a law firm just making humorous videos. There would be a disconnect there. You could get a following, but it's not going to help you in your business.
It's not going to help, but it depends what your motive is. So it's not going to necessarily help you with your business. But if you're a law firm and you were giving legal advice, or not, not one-to-one legal advice, but explaining the law, or explaining parts of the law, or explaining parts of corporate law, if you're making content that is really useful to that audience, and then you will still be able to build that trust and that relationship with the audience. So you've got to be driven by what the audience want, I think. Yeah. And you're not there to try to sell your business to the audience. Really, you're there to give them information that they find useful and then become a reliable source for that information. I think that's really important.
You mentioned you're trying to build a relationship with the viewer. I've spoke to a lot of, I've spoke to some radio broadcasters and heard this said by them that they're not speaking to everyone, they're speaking to someone. Do you do that when do you have a target person who's sitting behind the camera almost? That's who you're talking to?
Yes, I'm talking to one person. I'm not talking to an audience. I'm talking with one person, and I'm trying to explain things as if I was just like I'm talking to you now, as if I'm talking to one person that I want to inform or help to do something. It's like with my channel, I think of myself in some cases as a teacher. And in some cases as someone who might just be a little bit further down the track than the person that's watching, and I can say, oh no, don't do it like that, do it like this.
A bit like if you were helping a friend to code.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay then. And I think we've all watched videos, probably normally the shorter versions or the adverts, where they're clearly just trying to get you to do something rather than trying to help you to do something.
Exactly. Yeah. And you switch off straight away. You're not looking for. Well, certainly when I go on YouTube as a consumer of content, watching videos, I love YouTube. I think there's some great content on there. I'm not interested in anything that comes up like that. I want people that I can learn from, or people that can entertain me, people that I can become interested in.
Yeah. Okay then. What do you think people need to do then when they think about, we're going to set this channel up, we'll just use a law firm. We've started there, so we'll use a law firm. So we've got a law firm, they're in a particular niche and they just do employment law, we'll say. So their channel, they need to think about what they're going to say on there and why and who they're going to say it to.
I suppose if you're a law firm, let's say an employment law firm, you've got a bit of a head start because you must have inquiries coming through all the time. So, and you've got customers and they're asking you questions. Now, I bet if you look at all the questions that customers ask or potential clients ask, there are a lot that are similar. So, what do you get asked most as an employment lawyer?
So you're answering here, what do we talk about? Well, the same thing you talk about all day,
Yeah.
Just
so when
do that.
Exactly, when clients phone up and they ask you, what are they asking you? Well, that's obviously what your audience is, like
your audience want to know.
Exactly. So make content about that. What are the 5 things that we get asked all the time? What are the 5 biggest misconceptions? What do people not understand? How could we really help the sort of person that might call us? Before they call us, who's out there and what problems do they have, and how can we help them solve those problems? That's probably a good way of starting.
It's not a bad start. Yeah. So have you read Marcus Sheridan? The Ask You Answer. You've perfectly encapsulated the whole point of his book, which is an awesome book. We can happily reference it in the comments. his basic premise is if someone is asking you that question, there are probably 100 other people asking Google the same question.
Exactly.
So why not try to help those 100 people? And then it's a way to just let them know that you're there.
Yeah.
You can help with that.
And, you know, going back to the employment law example, you know, then you can become, you know, a trusted source of that provides information, you know, in that niche.
Okay then. So I suppose you've kind of answered all of that then. You know, why are you starting the channel? In that example, well, you're starting to answer those questions you get asked a lot. I presume the secondary part of that then is if someone rings up and says, I wouldn't mind a bit more info on that, you can send them the link of the video that you've done on it to make sure they've got more detail.
Exactly.
To make sure you've got consistency of message. You know what the video said, it's not going to change.
That's right, yeah.
It's not, you don't get a different answer if you're rushed or...
And you can take it away, you can play it over and over again, you can digest it, you know, you can, and then if you have any, you know, if you're on that point where that video has been sent to you by the company, you can come back with follow-up questions. Obviously, just as a consumer of the content, you can't do that. But if you're building a relationship with,
thank you for that.
client,
I've got a follow-up, or I would like you to do something for me. And of course, once you've got them on that, if your content's good, if you use the things like the cards right at the end of the video and you reference your other complementary topics, you'll get them into other areas and see that you've got a...
There's a good chance that they're interested in another.
They might watch other content, yeah. So that might be one of the reasons why we're doing it. We know what we're saying. Don't reinvent the wheel. Answer the questions you're already being asked. And I suppose we've answered then who we're saying it to. If you're doing the same kind of content as you are giving the advice you give during the day, that is your audience. Does that have to be the same people, or could you use YouTube to get a new audience, do you think?
Well, going back to the example of the employment lawyer, I mean, their audience are going to be necessarily people that have a need for those questions to be answered. So you might be able to reach a wider audience, but you're unlikely to be creating content outside of that niche.
And it wouldn't make sense to think we'll just start doing property, complaints. We'll start doing evictions. It'd be pretty unusual to have an employment law firm just talking about property evictions all day. It wouldn't make any sense, would it?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay then. So that's nice and simple then. Is it fair to say here then, Giles, that you see the purpose of a YouTube channel for an existing business more of a way of finding and having a closer connection with customers rather than as a money-making idea?
Definitely, yes. I mean, I think if you have a significant presence on YouTube, you might end up getting new clients from that. There's a good chance you will, but really you're just trying to build that rapport with existing clients and perhaps bring in new people as well. But it's not about, from my point of view, it's not about. I don't think it would work if you were just using it purely as a sales channel. I'm sure people do that, but that's not something that I would have any experience with, and I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
But I think if you just want to use it to show off your expertise and build that trust.
Yeah, because our audience are people in business. They're not people who aren't doing anything and just think, I'll just become a creator, because our audience here are people in business who, we're talking here about people trying to extend what they do via YouTube rather than just...
But you see it, don't you? I mean, the other day I needed to... Something had happened on my boiler, and we didn't have any hot water, so I go onto YouTube, and there are plumbers on there
how to bleed a radiator, how to pressurize a boiler.
Yeah. And I'm never going to become a client of that plumber, but that plumber has solved a problem for me, and he's solved a problem for a lot of people. And then as a result of that, he's built authenticity and sort of expertise on that platform, which is which would be useful for him as a plumber as well. But
and I presume if he's got then the top video that comes up on how to repressurize a combi boiler, anyone who is near him, if that doesn't work, they're probably going to reach out, aren't they?
Exactly.
So
yes.
so he's not going to hoover up all UK-wide plumbing enquiries, but he certainly doesn't hurt his presence where he actually is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay then. Do you think then YouTube is a way to then build? So you kind of, my word, not yours, but hopefully on the same thing. It's about building additional credibility and trustworthiness. Do you think this is a way to enhance that?
I think I don't know whether it's about building credibility. It's probably about taking the credibility that you already have in the domain in which you operate and extending the reach of that credibility.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, because if you're not credible anyway,
exactly,
you can't create credibility where there is none.
No.
So yeah, that makes sense. You're showing your existing credibility to a wider audience. Okay then. What kind of time scale do you think people need to think about here then, Giles, when we're starting it? We've been doing this for a while and we know it's a slog.
It is a slog.
But there might be people out there who think, we'll start a YouTube channel now to get sales for Christmas. We're recording this, 5 weeks away from Christmas.
Which probably isn't going to work. But I think it just integrated into your strategy, your communication strategy, and see it just as something that sits alongside that or part of that, and something that you just do. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it takes time to get it right. It takes time to create a product that you're happy with. It takes time to build an audience. It takes time to build the trust, and you can't rush that.
You've touched on a couple of things there. Take the time to get it right. Make sure the product is right. The content is the right content. What kind of budget do you think people need to put aside for doing something like, we know what it's cost us to do what we're doing, and it's not a massive amount, to be fair. Do you think some people get hung up on the wrong parts when they're starting?
Yeah, because it's all about content in the end. So it doesn't matter. If you were starting as a massive company, you'd probably want slightly higher production values than if you're starting.
There'd be an expectation
exactly.
that you weren't just running down the street on an old phone.
Exactly, but really, it's all about the content. And you can film video on a phone. The iPhone 13 is
the camera's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Or the Samsung camera. You don't need to invest a lot of money in equipment. It's more important to think about what you want to say and creating value in what you're saying, rather than blowing your budget on. It's great. I like buying cameras.
A lot of people like kit. But you can have all the kit in the world. You'd have Spielberg come and produce it, but if you're not saying anything,
exactly,
it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. So we've covered off quite a few things. We know what we're going to say. We know who we're saying it to. Hopefully, you've got a bit of an idea as to why we're going to start the channel, what we're trying to do with it. We've talked about sprint versus marathon. Is it worth extending? Because there's marathons, then there's ultra marathons, then there's Ironmans, triathlons. It's not your skill set, but it's not your experience, but how long do you think people need to be at something then?
Well, it depends also, how do you measure what success is as well? What are you aiming for? Are you aiming just to take what you do on other platforms or through your website or through whatever other channels you use and put that onto YouTube? Or are you looking to build a massive channel? If you're looking to build a huge channel, you probably have a different set of priorities anyway than being an existing business that is trying to reach their audience plus a slightly wider audience. Yeah. So I think it depends what you're aiming to do when you set out. And of course, a lot of people that start on YouTube don't always know what they're aiming. I didn't. But for an existing business, what does success look like for you?
So how do you tell the difference on this then, Giles? And I'm sure, and again, I'm sure people have, all views are not equal. Is something that someone said on one of our earlier episodes. Someone who, you may get one view, but they watch the whole thing, then they ring you after. Well, that was a perfect view. Yeah. That was exactly the view you wanted. 1,000 views where nobody engages, nobody rings and does anything with it.
But you're still building your authenticity and establishing your expertise in that sector. So
you don't think there's any? Do you think there's such a thing as a bad view then? I don't know.
I don't think there is, no.
Or a wasted view might be.
Well, the cost of a view is nothing, is it? Once
you've produced it,
once you've produced it, yes. I mean, there are going to be videos and subjects that engage more than others, and really, in your niche, you have to find out what that is, and YouTube provides really good data in order for you to be able to do that. So, in a way, as you start producing content, you'll discover what content is best for you in your niche. And it's difficult to know that until you have access to that data, and you won't get access to that data until you've started doing something. So, I mean, action is always better than inaction, isn't it? It's always better to do something and just go for it. I mean, start it.
We've got a saying in business: version 1 is better than version none.
Yeah.
And I suppose in YouTube, episode 2 is better than episode 1, isn't it?
And episode
1 is better than episode none.
Than not doing it at all, yeah.
Do you think it matters then? Because, to be brutally honest, our first few episodes, the content wasn't bad, but the delivery was terrible. We were finding our feet. They're still on there. You can hear them you can't watch them on YouTube because they're audio only, but we're not embarrassed by them. That was just a learning curve.
Exactly, and you learn from it. So
you don't laugh at a toddler who's just learning to walk and go, is that all you can do? They grow up and they learn to walk, don't they?
And you learn it by doing it. And if you don't do it, you're not going to find what works for you, and what works for you might not work for someone else. It's a very personal thing, personal to you or to your business. And so you just have to do it.
You mentioned the data then, Giles. What if I gave you 2 minutes to go into your YouTube studio and you were only allowed to check some key data, what would be your first few things you would look at? The first things, I suppose, what's the most important? Because there's a lot of data.
There is a lot of data.
What's the relevant data?
So, well, for me, I'd be looking at the click-through rate, and I'd be looking for the engagement. So those are the two. How many people are clicking and how long are they watching for?
What's the click-through rate then? That's how many people have seen the thumbnail and thought, I'll give that a watch? Is that what that is?
Exactly, yes. They've been presented, and this, it would be different for different channels. So if your thumbnail isn't being put in front of many people in the first place, then your click-through rate isn't necessarily going to be the best metric for you. But it's a useful metric for me because it tells me what the audience is interested in clicking on.
And where are they clicking this from then? So if you're on the app on your phone, you're watching something, if you don't put it full screen, you're watching it, it'll say, it'll show you 5 or 6 below that.
So you go on your home screen, there will be videos that come up on there. So if your video is going on, or if the thumbnail is going on the home screen, you can see how many people are clicking or what the click-through rate is there. Yeah. Or you can look on the up, when videos are up next, you can see what the click-through rate is for that. But you might be more interested in if you're a business that is going for content that people are searching for. What's your search? Your click-through rate in search, and YouTube. I don't think YouTube breaks that down.
I was going to say, does it split down? You might have had 100 views. I can't recall now. I think there is something that tells you how many it was suggested rather than organically searched or found, or there is, I can't remember the terms now. We probably need to get better at using the data,
but if for a business starting out and looking for putting their expertise onto the platform, search data would be quite interesting for them. If people are searching up about employment law and they're seeing our video, are they clicking on our video?
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then if they do click on it, does that video deliver what the audience hoped it would deliver? And you can tell that by looking at how long they're viewing for.
That's how long they watched. Yeah.
So if you're
so again, you may get 1,000 views, but average watch of 5 seconds on a 2-hour video.
Then you're not. It's all about giving the audience the people that you want to reach the content that they want. And if they're not clicking on it, then you're not giving them the content that they want. And if they're not watching it, you're not, so
if you're not sticking with it.
Exactly. So it's up to you to find out what it is that they want to watch. Your particular, there's 2 billion people on YouTube, so I was going to say there will be an audience.
No matter what you're putting out, there's definitely a few hundred people minimum who'll watch the most obscure thing. So yeah, you've got to find them, haven't you?
And also, I don't like the idea of wasting people's time, you know. So it's an attention economy, you know, and your video is going out there and it's competing with all the other videos. You know, is this video worthy of someone's time? You know, they're going to give you some of their attention, and you know, I always try not to disappoint them, because I think that's something that they've chosen to do. You really don't want to disappoint them if they've chosen to watch your video.
Is there a danger, Giles, that that might be putting people off starting though? They might think imposter syndrome might be putting people off giving it a go. Yes,
but I think you're right. That is a good point. But I think once you've built an audience, you know, perhaps you can think about that.
Don't abuse the audience.
But, exactly. Yeah. But when you're searching for an audience, you know, put content out there, but just put content that you know that you would watch. So, you know, obviously, I think people improve as creators and companies improve as creators. But at the very least, just put something out that you know that you would watch and that you know you're happy with. You know,
it's watchable.
Yeah. Don't treat the audience with respect, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. You're not going to start making soap soon, then, are you? On that logic, you wouldn't put soap there. You've probably answered some. I've got notes here. You know, volume versus quality. I think you've answered that then.
Yeah, I mean,
to some degree, haven't you? Tried to put
your best stuff out there. You know,
don't just think we have to do something.
I mean, don't let perfection stop you from putting anything out. I mean, it's impossible to make something that's perfect, but always aim to make something, you know, maybe a little bit better than you think you can.
Okay then, because I know some of the very biggest content creators, like Mr. Beast, who I've mentioned briefly before. I think they only put out a video every 10 days, 14 days even. So I think you've kind of answered there then, Giles, the volume versus quality. Put something good out. You haven't got to put anything out. Don't let perfection get in the way. All great tips. We've been going, you know, nearly 30 minutes now, so we don't like to abuse people's generosity for coming in and talking. What would you say is the biggest mistake people make when they start on YouTube? Then you might not know because you don't train people to be YouTube creators, do you? But you know,
I think you can get. We touched on it earlier. You can get obsessed with kit. And you can spend a fortune on kit, and the kit can be very useful and can help improve the quality of videos. But really, content is the most important thing, and you can create great content without lots of expensive kit. It's nice, there's something nice about looking at kit and getting excited about the various different types of kit that's available, but ultimately people don't watch because you're recording on a new camera or with a new mic. They don't really care about
unless they can't see you, it's that bad. Exactly. Or they can't hear you.
Exactly.
But basically most modern phones have got a decent enough camera, reasonable audio capture if you wanted to, and you can edit on there. It might not be award-winning, but again, you can get by with basically a decent phone, can't you?
You can, and
by decent, I mean almost any new handset within the last couple of years is probably good enough.
Yeah, and and maybe a decent external mic, because sound, it's important to be able to be heard and not have any interference or annoying sound issues. But again, you don't need to spend a lot of money on that. And but put the effort into the content and don't worry too much about the kit.
Good. I think that probably is a reasonable place to wrap up there, Giles.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Really enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed that. As always, we'd welcome any comments, any feedback. Reach out, let us know what you thought, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you.